Hey everybody, Abby here. How are you guys doing today? Today I am going to share with you a story that one of our viewers sent in to me about his first intermarital relationship. But before we get into it, I just wanted to remind you to head on over to my second channel. It's called Fet Talk with Abby, where we talk about all things fetishes, kinks, and alternate lifestyle relationships. And that is strictly informational. And yeah, so if there's a subject or a topic or a kink or a alternate relationship lifestyle you'd like to know about, let me know here in the comments of this video, or head on over to that channel, better yet, and leave it in one of the comments of those videos, and I will bring you all the information I can find on it. While I continue to share all of your emails sent in to you and your emails and stories sent in to me here on this channel. So let's get into the story about this man's first intermarital relationship. All right. It says, shore duty in Hawaii. My first intermarital relationship took place in the first 3 years of my marriage. I was already having marital problems when it came to tango. My wife at the time didn't think it was her duty to provide me with tango, and she didn't for the most part. Only when she felt she needed to get laid. She worked the day shift for a shipping company in Honolulu, and I worked the night shift for the Navy. I didn't mind working late and came home at a half-decent time to spend time by myself before bedtime. We had next-door neighbors that I found sort of off. She was Navy and he was an ex-Marine. They were just an odd couple. A year later, they had them transferring back to the States, leaving the unit next door to us empty for quite a long time. One day I heard a female voice in the parking lot and went to look, finding a woman in a family way that was just beginning to show. I looked at her body first, noting the heavy breasts she was trying her best to hide. We were the same height, with her dark brown eyes looking into mine. She wore a sundress with a t-shirt to cover her massive breasts. When she spoke, I heard a deep southern drawl, something I hadn't heard for many years. She simply introduced herself as Beth. She told me that her husband was away on deployment on a ship from Pearl Harbor. I took a good look at her body before going back inside to get ready for work. I mentioned her to the wife the next time I saw her, getting no reaction from her at all. The next morning when I woke up, I could hear her moving around next door, most likely trying to tidy up the house before her personal effects arrived. A day later, the truck showed up and she was on her way to having furniture again. We talked off and on for the next month or so about weather, football, and how it rains in the front yard and not in the back ever so often. I found that she liked the attention I was providing her, aware of how hard it is to me a Navy, how hard it is to be a Navy wife. She always wore a sundress around me, careful to hide her chest, even though half the time I could see through her sundress and bra and see her large brown areola and nipples. I am pretty sure that she was aware of the state of my manhood at times as well. She had quite the effect on me. One early morning, after that wife had left for work, she came knocking at my door, asking me to join her for a cup of coffee. She was wearing her typical sundress, but without the t-shirt that always accompanied it. I took note of her heavy breasts, guessing her to be a double D cup with ease. She caught my eye more than once as we drank coffee and exchanged conversation. With my trying not to stare at her beautiful bust line with deep cleavage, when I went back home, I went straight upstairs to the bedroom to release the stores in my boys. Oh my God, it was a powerful orgasm. 2 days later brought me a knock on the door, this time to ask me if I could help her hang shelves in the spare bedroom, the start of a baby room. It was just a matter of her holding the shelves while I mounted them to the wall. When done, she invited me down to the living room couch for a drink. She offered me a glass of Southern Comfort while she poured herself a Pepsi. I took a seat first, placing my drink next to me on the lamp table. She sat down beside me, close enough for me to be able to place a kiss on her lips. I felt the heat from her body while sipping away at my Southern Comfort. Before I knew it, she was pouring me another round to make sure I was comfortable. She excused herself to the bathroom for a moment, leaving me sitting alone on the couch. When she returned, she didn't come straight back to me, instead going into the kitchen to lock the front door. I heard the deadbolt echo before she returned to my side. She hesitated for a moment, like she was trying to make up her mind before turning her head to kiss me. Our lips met, and her tongue searched mine with passion, leaving me to return the same. We kissed for a long time, with her eventually placing my hands on her breasts through her sundress. Her bra was absent, leaving me touching her warm flesh through the thin fabric of the dress. She molded her body into mine, kissing me even deeper, this time with a hand on my lap. Playfully, she traced the outline of my manhood in my shorts, bringing me pleasure that was indescribable. At the same time, she unbuttoned her dress, exposing her breasts to the cool morning air. Her nipples stood out from her breasts nearly half an inch, inviting me to suck. She broke our kiss, cupped her left breast with her hand for a squeeze, then fed it to me. I felt her body tremble when I nibbled her, alternating between the left and right. Forcefully, she pulled me into her, smashing my face into her warm flesh. That is when I felt her hand on my manhood, skin to skin. Boldly, she had pushed her hand into my shorts for a quick pump, her hand circling my manhood as she gently yanked on it. The tip became suddenly visible above the waistband of my shorts, and she let out a deep moan. She allowed me to tend to her nipples for another few minutes before pulling her chest away from my face. She stood up a moment and took my drink from the table beside me, took a mouthful before kneeling between my legs. Quickly, she took to the head of my manhood inside of her warm mouth and held it there, allowing the southern comfort to soak into my phallus, numbing it to the point that it began to tingle. She pulled away briefly to make sure I watched her swallow, then went right back at it. This time, taking me all the way into her throat. Forcefully, she gave me a head. Knowing that the numb state I was in, she would have all the time in the world to get me to explode. Her eyes actually rolled back into her head when she tasted me, causing her to draw even harder to send my explosion to her belly. I came without warning, not even giving her a chance to prepare. 3 heavy shots of explosion hit the back of her throat without her missing a drop. She kept me in her mouth, using her tongue to keep me at attention. She stood up long enough to allow her dress to hit the floor, exposing her nakedness to me for the first time. With purpose, she sat on my lap, inching the head of my swollen manhood between her sopping wet labia. Resistance was absent, sending the head in deep with a single downward push. She went from empty to full in a flash, letting out a moan to let me know I had hit the far wall of her tight womanhood. She told me to stay still and let her do all the work. I started to protest, but knew I would lose in the end. Her hips drove her body down onto my my lap hard, bouncing hard enough to make her breasts hit in the face. I witnessed her orgasm one at a time, turning her upper body bright pink with each occurrence. She came so hard she let out a scream, with me desperately trying to cover her mouth. Before her next orgasm took a hold, I flooded her pregnant uterus with enough explosion to overflow it for sure. She refused to send me home with a dirty manhood, so she got me clean, adding to the pleasure she had already provided. I went home very happy with empty boys. Before sending me out the door, she set up a date for the 2 of us the next day. I kissed her on the cheek and left. I went next door the following day, wondering what she had in store for me. Her plan was simple. She needed me to tango her brains out from behind, stating that it was her favorite position in the world. She led me by the hand upstairs to the master bedroom and proceeded to tango me in every position imaginable, ending it all with her favorite doggy before sending me home. She cleaned me just like before. I didn't see her the next day, most likely due to having to shop for food on a Navy payday. I needed to recover anyway. My night at work was nice, knowing that there was a chance of getting laid almost every day, and not from my prude wife. That night I came home to a quiet house with the wife in bed hours earlier. The woman next door had been waiting for me to return, keeping watch at her front porch on a lawn chair. We spoke, and I left to take a shower and change into something comfortable. When done, I returned to her on the front porch before being led by the hand to her bedroom. Tonight she wanted oral tango, so I obliged with gusto, leaving her long legs shaking like made when I was done with her. She returned the favor, leaving me totally exhausted in the middle of her bed. Before sending me home to my wife in bed, she had me tango her silly while on her side, giving her shallow but orgasmic tango just the same. I found out if you push a finger inside of the anus right before they came, it drove her totally mad. We tangoed every night, once or twice with me going home to tango my wife as well. She didn't want a relationship, she wanted a tango, and often. As time pushed forward, her body changed. Pregnancy took over the way we were able to accomplish things. Soon, shallow sex is all we could do, with her enjoying oral sex even more. Quite a few nights saw her with shaking legs and her hands tightly pulling my hair. She also started to lactate heavily, always needing to have her plump breasts milked while she enjoyed pleasure. Just before Christmas time, her husband returned home for her to have her baby. I didn't see the two of them for weeks, and when I did, it was very brief. I figured he was most likely tangoing his wife to death, even after pushing a baby out of her tight womanhood. He was home for about 3 months, then went back out to sea with his ship. But she contacted me 3 or maybe 4 days later, trying to work me back into her schedule with a newborn baby present. First time in her bed, I noticed how she had snapped back from having a little one. She had never been pregnant to begin with, or like she had never been pregnant to begin with. My manhood stretched her tight hole with a tightness that was absolutely amazing. I had to work to get my manhood inside, and when boys deep, she milked it until explosion saturated her uterus. She was also very orgasmic, leaving a single finger to get her off with her eyes crossed. Nursing was also enjoyable, both for me and for her, due to being able to climax from the gentle sucking from her baby. Quite a few times I tangoed her with her baby nursing happily on one of her massive breasts. There were a few times that I almost got myself caught. The first time when the wife came home early on one of my days off. I just got a explosion when I heard my car pull up, leaving me to exit her sliding door so I could sneak inside my house. It all worked out except when the wife saw the neighbor on her porch. She had a ball of explosion slipping out of her and running down the side of her leg. The wife made the comment, disgusting, before remembering that her husband was out to sea. I just gave her a shrug and blew it off. This went on all the way up to when they transferred, leaving her to this date the most tango I have ever had with a partner. I think about it once in a while, and a bit as well. The end. Wow. That is quite interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. Yeah, pretty hot and steamy. I'm surprised you didn't get caught. But hey, sometimes you do what you gotta do, I guess. Not that it probably would have been better if it was consensual with your wife. I can't say that I recommend or endorse extramarital or relationship affairs without consent being involved. But hey, sometimes I guess you do what you gotta do. So thank you so much for sharing, and I hope you all enjoyed the story, and we will see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.